the Little Monsters, Chapter 189. The gang get caught red-handed, smoking, drinking, bunking off school, and having wild parties. The gang are just dropping the little kids off at school and are about to make their way to their part of the school when Stumpy says, "Hey guys, we only have boarding and unimportant lessons today, so I say we bunk off." Excuse me. Besides, as you know, my parents are away for 2 weeks celebrating their wedding anniversary, so our grandma and granddad are looking after us. We could have an all-night party at mine. I'll tell my grandparents that we're all staying at Kicker's. You lot can tell your parents the same thing, and Kicker can tell her parents that she's staying at Creeper's house. They all laughed and agreed with Stumpy. When all the little kids had gone into school, they all waited until they were out of sight, and then they all went to Stumpy's. Excuse me, sorry guys. They'd already managed to tell quite a few people about the party, so they didn't need to invite more people. They had loads of booze left over from their last party, but they hung around outside the shops, and when anyone came out with booze and turned their backs on it, the kids took it. At one point, they almost got caught, much to their amusement. The party was set to start around 1 p.m, so the kids got everything ready. Then they got themselves ready. Around 12:45 p.m, the guests started to arrive and the party got going. After about half an hour, Kicker said, "I fancy a cigarette, has anyone got any?" "My dad has a secret stash upstairs that he thinks no one knows about because they're in his secret hiding place. There's at least 40 packs. I'll go and get them, we can all share them," said Stumpy. Stumpy went and got the cigarettes and gave a packet to anyone who wanted them. About 10 minutes later there was a knock at the door. Stumpy knew it was Diane, the nosy neighbour, before he opened the door. When he did open the door, he said, "What do you want, Diane? Why aren't you at school, and what do you think you're doing, sneak smoking and drinking? You know you're underage and you know you're not allowed to have parties without an adult present," said Diane. "It's got nothing to do with you, so go away, mind your own business, and don't come back, you nosy old bag," said Stumpy, slamming the door in her face. Excuse me. The party continued, and at around 7 p.m, the guests went outside to party. The neighbours came over several times, but the kids just ignored them and carried on partying. They kept an eye out for the police, and when they came, they'd turn the music off and hid until they were gone. The party continued until 3 a.m, and then all the guests went home. Before they went to bed, they cleaned up the house and garden and made it look like they'd never had a party. Later that morning, they didn't wake up until 11 a.m. They told their parents that they had free periods all morning, so they took the little kids to school. That day they'd planned another party, and this time they'd invited about 50 people, but more were expected. Before they got ready for the party, they went and hung around the shops again. When anyone came out with cigarettes and booze, the kids took it. Once they'd got enough, they took it all back to Stumpy's house and got everything and themselves ready for the party. Excuse me. By 12 p.m, the guests started to arrive and the party got going. Both the gang and the guests made their way into the garden. As you can imagine, the noise was overbearing and the neighbours went over to complain several times, but the kids just ignored them and carried on partying. As the day went on and it got dark, everyone went outside. Then someone asked, "Stumpy, have you got any fireworks?" "Yeah, I've got loads of fireworks," answered Stumpy. Then Bumpy asked, "Stumpy, have you got any cigarettes left?" "Yeah, they're in the kitchen in the cupboard," answered Stumpy. They all went back outside and the gang let the fireworks off. Much to everyone's delight, the fireworks lasted for about 2 hours, much to the annoyance of the neighbours. After the fireworks had finished, everyone stayed outside to party. Everyone was having a ball whilst drinking and smoking. After they'd all been in the garden for about an hour, Stumpy shouted, "Who fancies doing the conga?" Everyone cheered and the conga song came on. They all joined a line and went round the street doing the conga. Then Kicker turned off the music and shouted, "The police are coming! Quick, get inside and hide!" Everyone ran inside and hid. As soon as the police were gone, they all came out of hiding and carried on partying. The party ended at around 4:30 a.m. and then everyone went home. The gang cleaned up Stumpy's house and garden, and by the time they'd finished, you couldn't tell there'd been a party there. The next party was set to start at 1 p.m. and continue right through the night. However, they'd almost run out of booze and cigarettes, so they went to the orphanage and the hideout. Then they took all the booze and cigarettes back to Stumpy's house. Then they went and hung around outside the shops. They took as much booze and as many cigarettes as they could when people came out of the shops without getting caught. They took everything back to Stumpy's house. Then they got themselves and everything ready for their next party. At around 12:45 p.m, the guests started to arrive and the party got going. Several neighbours came over to complain, but the kids just ignored them and carried on partying. When the police came, everyone hid in the cellar and took all the booze with them. At around 7 p.m, the guests went outside and the gang let some fireworks off again, much to the annoyance of the neighbours. Then Kicker looked up the street and saw her parents' car and she said to Stumpy, "Hey Stumpy, my parents are coming." "Who cares? They can't get in because all the doors are locked and bolted." "They can't get in the garden without going through the house," said Stumpy. They both laughed and carried on partying until 5 a.m. the next morning. After all the guests left, the gang cleaned up the house and then went to bed until 1 p.m. When they got up, they got everything in themselves ready for the next party, which was due to start at 2:30 p.m. By 2:15 p.m, all the guests had arrived and the party got going. At about 7 p.m, everyone went outside and the gang let some fireworks off, and they lasted for 3 hours this time. The party finished at about 8 a.m. the next morning. Once all the guests were gone, the kids locked and bolted the doors again. However, what they didn't realise is, as the guests were leaving, Kicker's parents had managed to sneak in. When the kids saw them, they looked at each other and laughed. Then Stumpy unlocked the front door, and before they could do or say anything, the kids grabbed Kicker's parents and pushed them out of the door and locked and bolted it. Then they rang their guests and told them that the next party would be at the orphanage from 12 p.m. Once all the guests had arrived, the party got going in full swing. Of course, Janice, the nosy neighbour, came over to complain, but the kids just ignored her and carried on partying. However, what they didn't realise is that their parents were outside with the police. As soon as they did realise, they just carried on partying. What they also didn't realise is that a window was open in one of the rooms and the police climbed in. They turned off the music and then one of them said, "The party's over with. The party's over with. I want all of you to leave, please." Once all the guests were gone, Kicker's dad said, "How many times do we have to tell you kids not to have parties and not to light fireworks? I have permission from all your parents, including yours, Stumpy, to tell you all that you're grounded for the foreseeable future. During that time, you're not to contact each other and you're not to hang around with each other at home or at school. You're to stay behind in school every break time, including lunchtime, and after school until you've all caught up on all the work you've missed. All of your laptops, your PlayStations, Xboxes and all of your games have been confiscated. Now, hand over your phones, please." The kids looked at each other and then casually walked out of the house and then ran all the way to the hideout. They stayed there overnight. The next morning when they woke up, they sneaked back home when they knew no one would be there. Then they retrieved all their stuff and hid it where they knew no one would look. Then they all went to the local DIY shop and bought unbreakable locks for both the inside and the outside of their bedroom doors and installed them. Then they went back to the orphanage to get ready for their next party. However, when they got there, the front door was padlocked on the outside. This didn't stop them as they broke the lock, went in, locked the door on the inside and left the keys in the lock. Then they noticed that all their booze and cigarettes were gone. However, they had loads in the cellar and at the hideout and they went and got it. Once they dropped everything off at the orphanage, they went and hung around outside the shops. What they didn't realise is that they were being watched by the shop security guards who had informed the police. The police arrested them and locked them up, but they didn't care. As soon as they let them go, they pretended to go home, but instead they went to another shopping centre. They took everything back to the orphanage and got everything ready for their next party. Then Stumpy said, "Hey guys, this house is mine, so before the party starts, if you guys will help me, I'm going to install new locks on all the doors." They all laughed and then helped Stumpy to install all the new locks. Then they got ready for their party. After that, they had a party every day for a week. When they decided that enough was enough, they went home. When they got there, their parents told them that the punishment they'd been given still stands. Of course, as per usual, they didn't take any notice. They refused to give their parents their phones, and they rang each other and met up every day. Eventually they gave in and went back to school and caught up with all the work they'd missed. For once they even stuck to their punishment. Okay, maybe not. They just did what they wanted when they wanted. I mean, if they actually did as they were told and stuck to their punishment, they wouldn't be the Little Monsters gang now, would they? Well, they wouldn't, would they? Thanks for the ending of chapter 189. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to like, share, comment and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, please feel free to like, share, comment and to go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves. Love you.